All right, guys, welcome back to the Prediction Strike weekly roundup here. Today, we're going to be talking about UFC 294. We got a massive card ahead of us, and I'm joined here with Jackson. David is again on vacation out of town, but how we doing, Jackson?
We're doing all right. We're doing all right. Kind of missed David, but 294 should be a super insane fight. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I'm excited. I got big hopes for it. I think the changes possibly made it even better. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean the changes definitely made it like name wise a super enticing fight. Generally, you'd rather see like both fighters on either end like have their time to prep for the fight and be prepping for the right person and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a super electric fight, and I'm not really mad about the changes now.
I uh I think the Usman one is great. I mean, I think a lot of people probably wanted to see Paulo Costa, but this one is just a much more realistic fight. I think Usman poses a bigger threat potentially than Costa would have in this situation. Usman always did seem like a bigger fighter anyway, so the weight cut for him I don't think will be a big deal, and I think he'll be prepped for this one. I was looking forward to Charles getting his rematch though. Hopefully that
For sure.
still can happen sometimes down the road. He's easily one of my favorite guys to see step in the octagon. So hoping that comes back sometime down the road.
I'm sure it will. But like that being said, still hyped, you know?
Yeah, no, it'll be awesome. I love Volk. I won't spoil anything, but I think he could surprise some people here.
I mean, I think it's going to be a super close fight. It's going to be hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into it. We're going to go just the main card today because David isn't with us again. Usually we like to throw in a couple prelims that we're interested in, but we're going to keep this one short and sweet for you guys. The first fight on the main card is Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Gafarov. Grant, what do you think about this one?
We have Saeed at $1.68 on Prediction Strike as well, and then we have Gafarov at 54 cents. So clearly a big advantage here in this fight for Nurmagomedov or Magomedov. Wait, no, it is
Yeah, you got it.
Nurmagomedov. In this one, he is the consensus favorite, but I think he's a bit more overvalued on Prediction Strike than he is in the fight, just as it stands. So I think Gafarov is decent value on Prediction Strike because I do think he has a shot in this fight, but it's gonna be tough to beat the line of Russian guys that we'll see fighting today, and I think they get their first dub here by way of Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, totally. Nurmagomedov looked really, really sharp in his fight with Jonathan Martinez. It was a really close decision loss. And, I just don't think Gafarov is anywhere near the caliber of Martinez in the first place. And I think the odds, well, we can't really talk about betting, but I think the odds on Prediction Strike are like pretty accurate. I can solidly say I've got Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, somehow these two, he's not related to Khabib, which is a weird one. I usually just assume most of these guys have some sort of relation to Khabib, and this one, I mean, Saeed even has the same last name, but apparently they're not related. So I'm sure Khabib will be at this fight and probably in his corner somehow. But yeah. As we move into this next one, we got Ikram Aliskerov taking on Warley Alves. Jackson, how do you see this one going?
I mean, I think, like, wait, what can we talk about the Prediction Strike prices first on this? What are those?
Yeah, so Ikram is $1.66, and then Alves is sitting at 80 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I think those prices pretty much also reflect what's going to happen in the fight. Alves is a tough fighter. Came back from injury and put on a really good performance against Lezez in 2021, but he dropped his last two and hasn't looked too good. Um, and Aliskerov is 14-1. It says here, with his one loss being to Kamzat. So much tougher strength of schedule. Has looked better. Alves, I don't think has the experience to take him down in this one. I've got Aliskerov.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell the level of competition for these kind of Dagestani fighters. I mean, he's fought Hamzat and he got knocked out in just a couple minutes, but that wasn't in the UFC. That was in Brave. He's only fought once in the UFC. He had a Contender Series fight before that, but only one fight in the UFC. So it is a little bit interesting. I mean, we've seen with these guys before that they do kind of tend to start out hot and they usually just fit right into the UFC. But I'm going to take Alves here. I think that the experience here helps him a lot. I mean, he's fought like 15 times in the UFC. He's beaten Colby Covington. He's lost to Usman. He's fought guys at the top of his division, and I think he definitely knows how to win a fight in the UFC, which I think is really important. So I'm going to lean with him here.
I like it. Next up, we have Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Grant, what do you think about these two?
So we have Ankalaev at $5.38, which is by far the highest price we've seen so far today, and for good reason. He's the second-ranked contender in the light heavyweight division. And then we have Johnny Walker at $3.14 here. I do like Johnny as a fighter. I just think that Ankalaev is going to outclass him here. I mean, he's a second-ranked contender. I think he has his eyes on that belt. This division in general has been a whole lot weaker since John Jones has moved up and not fought at this division. And so I think it's pretty much wide open. And we have Jamal Hill as the current champ, I believe, but I think Ankalaev wants that shot and he sees a division that doesn't have a certified like GOAT level fighter at holding the belt in this division. So I think he sees that shot and he wins this one and then takes that into a title fight.
For me, I think I'm going to sprinkle some value in with this one and go with my man Johnny Walker. He's looked great recently, coming off 3 wins in a row. And I think he could be able to keep it on the feet with Ankalaev. Like, Ankalev's going to try to work in some takedowns, obviously, and apply the pressure. But I think Walker has the experience and the talent to keep it on the feet the whole fight. And I think a good look kind of is it to go to decision, which kind of hurts the KO potential for Johnny Walker. I think, if it stays on the feet, there's a good chance it's a more technical fight. But that's still a lot of value there if Walker pulls off the dub either way. He's looked great. I'm going to go with him.
I like that. It could genuinely go either way, and I think since the division is so wide open, if Walker gets this done, he could potentially even be in line for a title fight. So both these guys are going to be hungry with a division that seems vulnerable, to say the least. So definitely chances for either of them to boost up a ton on Prediction Strike with a potential title fight there in the future.
For sure.
But yeah, should we move into the first massive fight of this one?
I think we should. We have Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman. It's going to be a crazy fight. Grant, where are you going with this one?
So Usman is sitting at $4.17 on Prediction Strike, and Khamzat is sitting at $5.42 on Prediction Strike. So Khamzat a little bit favored, and I believe he's probably favored in this fight as well, just in general. Usman is a guy that, since I've been watching the sport, has been in the top 5 of pound for pound rankings every year, every week. He's been a solidified name there, and seeing him drop these last 2 fights has been just a weird thing that I never would have comprehended happening based on watching him dominate for so many years before that. Usman today released something about potential career plans, and I am definitely drawn to what he had to say. He planned out a win here against Khamzat and then go in, beat Strickland. They said the winner of this fight was going to fight for that belt, as Izzy seems to be taking some time off. So if Usman wins this, he goes in, beats Strickland, and then you set up the potential for a 2-time belt holder in another fight against Leon or maybe against Colby or whoever's back there in that division. And I mean, I've loved watching Usman fight, and that storyline is way too captivating for me to go against. That would be just the perfect send-off. I think he retires after that fight, and and it would be an awesome end to an awesome GOAT level career for Usman. So I'm gonna stick with my guy here and trust him that the competition that he's faced helps him prevail in this one, because Khamzat is obviously a great fighter, but he has not fought anyone that's up to this caliber yet, and I think Usman gets this one done.
Well, as far as my prediction for the fight goes, I kind of think Khamzat rolls here. Like you said it yourself, like Usman has spent a ton of time at the top. Like he's used so much energy and time up there, and he's tired now. Like in the rematch, he looked tired. Like we see it in the UFC, like when someone's a champion for a long while, when they lose, like the downhill spiral is kind of, it's pretty quick. Like, and I think Chimaev got it. I'm feeling him on this one. So inside.
Do you see it going, but knockout, or do you see it happening on the ground? Because I don't see him taking down Usman as much, and even if he is a little bit tired, and that chin after that first Leon fight has definitely affected him. I still think his takedown defense is there.
No, totally. But I mean, I think he's tired, and I think Khamzat is hungry. Great camp, obviously. And I think it's his time more so than Usman personally. But what you said about is like, I didn't see what his plans were after, to be honest. And that's kind of intriguing.
It would be like a hero's ending. It would be the storybook movie way for this to end is him to take that Strickland belt and then go into a rematch against Leon and then see what happens as he lays his gloves down. But it could also just end here and he like retires on the spot in this fight. So could definitely go many different ways, but I'm going to trust him. I think that this division in general has always like potentially been his strong suit. He just saw Izzy there, who is obviously a friend of his, and they talked about having 3 African champs when Ngannou was there, and then him and Izzy, and they didn't want to take each other's belts because they'd rather have all 3 of them sitting up there. And so without Izzy there, it makes sense that he wants to take this fight in this division because he's naturally a bigger guy anyway. So I'm curious to see how he adjusts. I think short notice, it's better that he's in this division than it would be if he was still at 170, because I think that'd be a tough cut for him.
Totally.
Moving on into the main event of the night, though, we have Islam Makhachev, whose price on Prediction Strike is $7.45, taking on Alexander Volkanovski, $7.16. So relatively even prices here. Obviously, 2 guys that deserve those prices as the respective champs in their divisions. How do you see this one turning out, Jackson?
Well, I will say that I think Volkanovski is definitely like a smash of an underdog, like a really great underdog pick. But I think Islam has the slight edge here. I think, like, even though Volk might on a regular day have a slight cardio advantage against Makhachev, like, he's had the full camp, he's had more training just straight up. They're going to be in Abu Dhabi, which Makhachev has more experience training in those types of climates than Volk. So I think like this is a great position for Islam to be in a five round fight against Volk. Like if Volk had more time, I would probably say differently with regards to the cardio. In regards to striking, I think Volk probably has an edge, but Islam's that like left straight that Islam's got, it's going to always be there. And he's able to work in those heavy leg kicks as well. Like especially training going into Oliveira, like he's going to get it going for sure with the striking. And I think he has the wrestling advantage as well. So I got Islam, but I think it's going to be an electric fight. And I'm not going to be surprised at all if Volk gets it.
Yeah. I will say 2 things about this. I would have taken Charles against Islam, and I hope Volk beats the shit out of Makhachev, but I think Islam gets this one done. I honestly thought that Volk could have easily been given the decision in their last fight, especially as the guy who's been at the top of the pound-for-pound rankings and has been a dog in the UFC for years, and it was against a bigger guy. He's moving up weight classes, and Makhachev didn't look dominant whatsoever. Volk was pushing the pace on the ground. Makhachev couldn't really get anything done. Volk was like kind of on his back, just screaming at him. telling him to do something and not just try to point him out. And Islam did end up kind of outpointing him in that fight, and he won fair and square, I guess. But I thought that decision was super close, and it could have genuinely gone either way. In this one, however, I do think Islam finishes this one more convincingly. I don't know if it'll happen inside the distance. If I had to pick, I would say it's like a 4-1, like handily winning this one. And I think Volk realizes now after this one that he might be better suited in his own division. There's just not that many captivating fights there to make happen. He's beaten everyone. Max will beat everyone under him, and then he'll beat Max every time. So there's just not that many storylines to make there. But I do think that Makhachev walks away victorious in this one.
Well, I think like we were pretty separated on this one. I think more so than we normally are. I kind of thought you were gonna go Volk too.
Yeah, I love Volk. I would love for him to win. I'd be happy to be wrong here, but I think that Islam gets this one done. He's just been training at this division a lot more, and I'm sure they offered Volk and Kamaru a crazy bag to hop in on short notice for this one, and they're probably just realizing that, you know, your career is short in this sport, and when you get an opportunity to make a ton of money in a fight like this that you could win too, it's not like either of them, I don't think at least, will be dominated in this one. It's a chance you got to take in order to make some cash. But I don't know. Definitely an interesting fight. I'm super looking forward to this one. It is at a weird time, which is unfortunate. I think it's at 2 your time, 11 a.m. my time, the card starts. So get yourself some lunch, maybe a couple mimosas, and then watch some fights, which is not a bad spot to be in, I guess.
Grab half a gummy, sit down on the couch.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Who was the announcer that was saying that? He was like, grab half a gummy, sit down on the couch. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I saw that though.
Yeah, I forget who it was, but
you want to give out your sleeper first, and then I'll give mine out, and then we can move into the survivor pool.
For sure. You know, I think based on just the prediction strike prices, it's pretty obvious who my sleeper pick is, and that's going to be Johnny Walker. It's pretty hard deciding which one of these Russians I was going to take off of my list of winners. And I think Johnny has a solid chance of upsetting. The dogs are definitely barking on this one. So he's my sleeper. What about you, Grant?
I like that pick. I think there's definitely good value there. One guy I want to give a shout out to is Javid Basharat, who's fighting in the prelims, undefeated across all competitions in mixed martial arts, including the UFC, obviously. His price is only $2.06 for now. He's a big favorite in this one against Victor Henry. He's only 28. I think there's a lot of potential for him to fly up the rankings in the bantamweight division. So definitely a guy to keep an eye on. My sleeper in this one, though, is going to be Warley Alves on Prediction Strike. His price is only at 80 cents compared to Aliskarov at $1.66. So half the price. And I think most people would say he's the consensus favorite in this one, just slightly. Seems like a pretty even fight, but when you get that much value on Prediction Strike, I would have to lean with him as a guy to get some good value on here.
I like that. I also like the Basharat shout.
Yeah, I think both those guys are guys to keep an eye on here. This one's tougher to go into a kind of a must-win situation here and find someone. There's not anyone in these main cards that I really love. I mean, I could see Volk pulling this one out. I think Makhachev is probably the biggest favorite of the evening. Do you have any guys that you're looking for as a lock to win this week?
I mean, I don't think you're going to like it, but I'm going to go with Khamzat. I'm like so confident he's going to roll.
How many rounds do you say that one goes?
I think that one goes inside the distance. I mean, I'll say second round.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. I mean, I think it totally could. I think there's a chance that Usman goes into this one without even much training and just sees an opportunity to get some cash, and it doesn't really matter how it plays out because he could always just go back down to his division or retire, or all his options are still open regardless of how this fight goes. I'm going to have to fade you then and go with my pick of Ankalaev as my survivor pool pick this week.
One of us is going to be looking foolish.
No, we could both win this one.
No, yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna go with him. I think that he's got that dog mentality, and I think he's gonna be looking ahead a little bit. Hopefully not too much, because Johnny Walker obviously poses a huge threat here. But I think he sees a real chance to be a belt holder in a weaker division, and I think he gets this one done.
For sure. Thank you, everyone, for watching this week's UFC podcast. We'll be back next week, hopefully, if David ever comes back from Japan. So appreciate you guys for watching.
Yeah. Peace. Enjoy the fights, everyone.